Okay, so today we'll be presenting white collar crime. The first half will be presented by me, Aaron Myshak-Davis, and then the second half will be presented by Jag. So to start us off, white collar crime is nonviolent crime by means of deception. So the reason why this problem so apparent is because of the financial impact. Large-scale white-collar crime costs are way above $1 trillion. This came from the University of Tampa. Another statistic that the Department of Justice in the United States put out is $2.3 billion in healthcare fraud occurs every year, and 10% of that is done by hospitals, while annual street crime costs $18 billion, which is nothing in comparison to the $1 trillion up top. So, kind of to outline the why white collar crime occurs is the convenience theory. The convenience theory has three dimensions. The first is financial motive. So the corporation or individuals in the corporation want or need more money. The second is organizational opportunity. This is kind of how they're actually going to obtain the extra money or get the money, how they're going to carry out the methods of financial gains. And the third is personal willingness. So the criminal individuals who wish to carry out which they know are illegal activities for financial gain. Uh, it's important to know that white collar crime does not just occur in big corporations, but by services provided to the public. For example, there's a case study showed that this hospital was using codes in their system to get reimbursements on services that they didn't give. So for the three dimensions of this case in the convenience theory is that their financial motive was to gain extra money. They gained 1.27 million Canadian dollars. Their organizational opportunity was the ability to use the codes in their system for reimbursement. And the personal willingness was the key employees receiving the money knowing it was by illegal means. So, why does white collar crime occur? First of all, it's super hard to prevent. It can be done from far away, most likely in different countries, states, provinces, you name it. Most of the fraud detection is done by the public rather than inspections, which I'll give an example of later. And there's an unclear and old definition of white collar crime. And lastly, almost all white collar crime goes unreported. 98% of identity fraud is not reported, and especially financial fraud does not get reported. When it does get reported, it gets reported to the banks. So here's kind of an outline of how white collar crime occurs in fuel markets. So a producer will sell low quality biofuel as a higher quality by mislabeling renewable identification numbers. So when a gas station buys this product, they think it's of higher quality, and so does the customer. But then when the customer fills up later on, they find out if it has to do, so a customer may find out if their engine's not running properly and they're like, what the heck. So they might report it, but the people who get in trouble is the gas station. They would get in trouble because they did not use due diligence while buying the product. And of course the profit would go to the original company that gave the lower grade fuel to the gas station. So punishments. This is where things get kind of a little hairy. If a company does get scrutinized, then they'll claim that they were not aware of any wrongdoing. And if they do accept a fine, the company itself will take the responsibility rather than key individuals. The punishment can be amounted to paying off a parking ticket, and these companies will do nothing to hold individuals responsible. In court, lawyers will use shortcut, smaller offenses to ensure that they win the case instead of trying to prove a complicated financial case. Suggestions for fighting white collar crime, these are just mine from my research. It's just increasing public knowledge of how white collar crimes occur and how they are personally being affected by white collar crime. Establish third party investigators to go into industries and markets where the occurrence of white collar crime is more apparent, like the fuel markets. And increasing methods used to prosecute companies rather than using smaller crime to ensure punishment. Try to make a real change. And here are my references.
So first I'll be talking about some common white-collar crime examples. One of them is a Ponzi scheme. It's a type of investment scam that promises high returns for little to no risk. People or organizations engaged in Ponzi schemes focus their efforts on attracting new investors to pay the older ones. The scheme falls apart when new customers stop coming in and the flow of new investments dry out. Another one is bankruptcy fraud. A person burdened by insurmountable debt can find relief by filing for bankruptcy when the person filing for bankruptcy intentionally hides property. When making the bankruptcy claim, they can be accused of bankruptcy fraud. Occupational crime. Also known as workplace crimes, occupational crimes are defined as offenses that are committed by someone during the course of his or her employment. Occupational crimes encompass a wide range of criminal acts, but most commonly include committed by employee against the employer, altering company records, embezzlement, employee theft, money laundering. These types of offenses aren't always committed by a single person but are more likely to involve multiple employees. Occupational crimes are more common in certain professions like healthcare professionals. For example, in some places, overbilling is a common charge in the healthcare industry. Corporate crime. Corporate crime, sometimes referred to as white-collar crime, was defined in 1939 by criminologist Edward Sutherland as a crime committed by a person of respectability and high social status in the course of his occupation. Common examples of such crimes include crime committed by a company to make profits, false claims in advertising, bribery of officials, manipulating the stock market. An example of corporate crime would be when Damon Clinical Laboratories chose to send in false claims to the US Medicare in order to improve their failing profits. In conclusion, white-collar crime is a non-violent crime where the primary motive is typically financial gain in nature. There are many ways it can be committed, which some of them include tax fraud, money laundering, and counterfeiting. It's harder to detect, which can result in companies or individuals making millions. Most white-collar crimes usually go unreported. Companies will take the fall if they are caught, so the main players aren't affected and they can keep on doing what they're doing.